of the Red, White, and You Show, being sponsored by Trailblazing Communications, tools to take back your life. Today, I have great guest here, Richard Kaufman. He is a Army veteran, labeled as the comeback coach. He's dealt with a lot of things in his life and has come back, and his story is one of resiliency. And I'm going to let him share that. But Richard, welcome to the Red, White, and You Show.
Thank you for having me on today. I'm so blessed and grateful and honored to be on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for the viewers and listeners out there, can you share with us a little bit of your background and, how you got to where you are today? What's, kind of your story?
Okay, I'll give you a real quick down and dirty. My story has three parts. I don't think it's incredible, but some people do. Grew up very poor, grew up with an addicted mother. Father left at 3 months old. So we moved around a lot. We moved to about 10 to 20 different houses by the time I hit junior high school. So never made a lot of friendships or anything like that. Had my first drink of alcohol at the age of 12. Was a full-blown alcoholic by the end of the age of 13. Joined the military, became a drug addict and alcoholic. They had enough of me after getting in trouble a lot, so they threw me out for being an addict and alcoholic. Came back home, told my mom that I was going to straighten up, which I never did. I told her, because I was homeless at this point. I've been homeless a couple times in my life. And I promised her I'd go to school if she let me back in the house, which she did. And I went to bartender school, which is not a great thing if you're an alcoholic.
But I would imagine not.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. The first job I got out of school was a friend of mine owned a bar, and he was a police officer in Newark, New Jersey. He hired me for New Year's Eve, 1988 to 89. Everything was going great. Everything was going smooth. Alcohol was flowing. I was making money, drinking. All of a sudden, next thing I know, knock at the door, 8 o'clock the next morning. It's him and 5 of his buddies coming to arrest me because I robbed the place. I walked out with like $5,000 worth of cash, gave away $2,000 worth of free drinks. But he gave me a choice. He said you could either come back with the money, which of course I didn't have, but I had to borrow it. And he said I had to go to 90 AA meetings in 90 days. So I hit something like 300 meetings in a row, and I've been sober since that morning, January 2nd. Because I was actually looking at 5 years for grand theft, but he stood in the corner for me for some reason. I don't know why. Went to AA, kind of got my life straight. We'll talk about this later, but there's a difference between being dry and being sober. And by that time I was dry. I was not drinking. Joined the military again for a second time. I had to jump through a lot of hoops to get back in. Still was a bad soldier. I got busted a couple times. Joined the South Carolina National Guard. Was about to be booted out again at the end of September of 2001. But on a Tuesday morning, because where I'm sitting right now, you can actually overlook the Twin Towers. And we all knew people that were in the buildings that day. And I was watching on TV, and then they say sometimes God works on you, God breaks you. And he broke me that day. And I begged the Lord to, I knew my military career was probably over, but I begged my company commander, my first sergeant, to have a meeting with me that day. I went back in and I begged them to keep me. And they seen something different in me because I've been busted a bunch of times and been in their office a bunch of times.
Sure.
So they just figured I was full of shit again. But they did keep me. And that day, I dedicated the rest of my life to helping people that can't help themselves. They did keep me, thank God. Within 3 years, I became Soldier of the Year.
Wow.
non-commissioned officer. I finished with almost 24 years in the military, National Guard, regular guard time.
Sure, sure.
And then the third part of my story is my first annual training with the New Jersey National Guard. A vehicle broke down, so I was backing it off the highway. And instead of the soldier hitting the brakes, he hit the gas, and he ran over my whole body in the Humvee and ran over my head, and
Oh
that
man.
blind. So of course the Army says, "Hey, you can't shoot. We don't need you."
Right.
So they discharged me. So that's when I got into that really, really deep, dark depression. Wasn't drinking or drugging, and that's when I had to pull myself up by the bootstraps and start getting healthy again by asking for help. And that's when I started helping others helping others that actually helped me. So that's why I continue doing what I do now. And now I'm a speaker, podcast host, author. Now I'm just trying to save as many lives as I can. So that's
Right.
my story.
Wow. That's a hell of a story. I mean, good Lord. Now I have an odd question for you, Richard. Now, one of the things that I've noticed with you is you're always wearing a hat. What's is there a significance with a hat, or what's going on with the hat? I always see you
I love
wearing a hat.
hair. Um, when I first started helping people, um, one of the first weekends I did my first public speaking I ever did. We went to the movies, me and my wife, and we went to go see American Sniper. So, that really affected me because here I am trying to help soldiers with PTSD, and then Chris Kyle gave his life to helping soldiers with PTSD. So I messaged his wife, and I got in contact with his wife and his family. And I told him that anytime that I'm ever on a podcast, a show, or speaking, I'm always going to wear a hat in honor of Chris, and always going to mention Chris every time. Because sometimes over time, people get forgotten.
Right.
And Chris Kyle gave his life helping another soldier with PTSD, and he actually killed him. So I give honor to Chris every time that we're on, and just to let people know that there's people that have actually died trying to save other soldiers.
Wow.
That's the reason I wear it.
Wow. That's very powerful. And what a moving tribute to just a great patriot, somebody that obviously paid the ultimate price, helping others, right? And I know that there's so many other people as well that have died, similar, um, doing similar things. But absolutely, absolutely, that's a beautiful tribute, memorializing. So take us in a little bit, Richard. So let's dive in a little bit. You had all this adversity in your life, pretty much almost died, uh, almost went to jail. I mean, your guardian angel or God must have been like, somebody take care of this guy. We keep on pulling him back out, right? Take us in. So take us in the world of the comeback coach and helping others. Like, what does that look like? And obviously, I know that you continually do it because not only do you find healing and helping others, but take us into that world a little bit more.
Well, how it all started is a friend of mine had me on his podcast. Donnie Boyven of the Success Champions had me on, and we were starting to talk about because during this whole time, I I was a health and fitness coach. I was a personal trainer, and I worked at General Nutrition Center, and I worked with athletes from the WWE, NFL, Major League Baseball, and we started talking about that, and then I just started telling him my backstory, and I kept trying to talk about the fitness stuff, and he's like, "No, there's enough fitness guys in this world. Everywhere you look, there's one." He's like, "But you are like the ultimate comeback guy, and people just need to hear a story that if you can make it, anybody can make it." And that's when the whole, wow, if I can help somebody else to do through doing something positive, that's how it all started. And then when I met Gary Vee and we talked a little bit, and that's how it all started coming to fruition after I talked to Gary. And so,
Yeah,
and that
talk about that a little bit. Gary V. Vaynerchuk, Yeah, I think I'm saying his last name, but that's why everybody says Gary V because they can't pronounce his damn last name. But talk about that a little bit. Kind of a starstruck, life changing moment for you, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, or fortunately, because I've been in the, you know, around so many guys from the WWE, like the Undertaker and all those guys, Triple H, I don't get starstruck. But I was just Gary his father has a liquor store in New Jersey, and heard he was going to be there, so we went there. It was one of his books. I bought one of his books, and then we started talking. And he actually took my Wounded Warrior hat, and it's actually hanging up in his office. So sometimes when you do his videos, you can actually see one of the hats. And then we just started talking about, how to get across to on the social media without having to pay for social media, because everything I do is free. I don't charge it for
Sure,
anything.
sure.
And so that's when he started talking about making your own, um, making a hashtag for yourself, and then writing a book. And that's where everything just started to flourish from that moment on.
Nice, nice. And did that also kind of spark or lend to add some fuel to the fire as in speaking as well?
Oh yeah, it really did. Because I've always spoken, whether it's been in jails, whether it's been in rehabs. Um, because when you're an addict, like I was an addict for, I'm clean for 30 years, but still an addict. I just don't use. If you go into a jail or a rehab, they know if you're bullshitting or not. They know if you're the real deal or not. And that's when Gary's like, just start speaking. Go to veterans homes, and or going. Now it's obviously with the corona, going on virtual summits and just talking about helping soldiers or veterans that are struggling. So I'm doing one. I actually got to do a video tomorrow about my life story. I got to do one tomorrow morning. But it's just about because people, as you know, being in the industry, people don't care how much what you know. They just want to know how much you care about them.
Right,
And if you can
right.
touch somebody's heart, they may not remember your name, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Absolutely.
That's my goal, is to be able to touch people's hearts.
Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. Speaking of, you mentioned the summits, virtual summit. There's you are one of the selected speakers at a veteran virtual summit coming. Is that coming up in December? When is
Uh,
that?
Saturday, next Saturday,
Next,
Saturday,
and tell us a little bit about and obviously this is going to air in March, but talk a little bit about that because that won't be the only one. There's going to be others, but talk a little bit about that.
One of our friends, Ryan Hunt, he runs Mountain Up caps, baseball caps. He decided to put something together to where, because I'm part of a tribe called the Vetrepreneur Tribe, where it's like 14,000 business owners, all veterans. So we decided to all get together and to actually have a summit to where active duty soldiers can talk to the veterans that are out and are working and have their own businesses. So if they want to start their own businesses, we actually have a way we can mentor them. And so that's everybody else that's talking, and most of the people that are talking are like high level business owners, and that's not me. You know, a lot of the guys they're talking about your wallet. I'm talking about your heart. So so I'm going for a totally different angle, but because that's what God's blessed me with, so that's what I'm going with.
Nice, beautiful, beautiful. So talking about business owners, what's the number one biggest obstacle that you've seen with whether they're a veteran or not with new business owners? What do you feel is, or what have you seen in the industry as the number one biggest obstacle for people starting off?
Well, like I joke around every time on my podcast when I'm interviewing an entrepreneur, and it's funny, but it's true. It's like every guy that gets out of the military wants to start a T-shirt and a hat company or coffee. Hey, I get the same real,
Yeah,
but they don't have a plan.
right.
So the biggest thing is, like we're in the military, you're taught to have, if you're going to go into a fight, you're going to have a plan,
Yep.
and you have a standard operation procedure. but they don't do that with their business. They think they're just going to wing it when they get out. But you got to have an operations plan before you even start.
Right. Right. Well, do you also find that the people that are very successful surround themselves with, um, I think you called it a tribe or whatever, but you know, because the military is such a, you know, a group mentality, right? You don't fight or you don't win any fight on the battlefield alone.
Yeah.
Do you find that the same in business? You know, creating whether it's eh, whether it's a, you know, whether you're a sole proprietor or not, to have that virtual or physical team. Do you find that that is a key element in success?
For me, it is. And let me, a little story is last year we had in Washington, D.C., there was a conference called the Military Influencer Conference where a lot of influencers from around the world got together. And after the conference was over, there was maybe like 5 or 6 of us that went out to dinner together, and we had dinner together. And since that time, we've become we're known as the Rat Pack or or the Amigos, and
Okay.
all 6 of us, our businesses have flourished because we've all just became a big fire team to where we
Nice.
support each other, and we all became like best friends after that night. So,
Nice.
I consider, they're my fire team, they're my amigos. And I also think mentorship should be a big thing that should be talked about.
Sure, sure. And well, so you bring up you know, mentorship. You know, what are some key, so if somebody's sitting out there saying, you know, Richard, that's a great idea. I've been looking for somebody to mentor me in my given niche or field, whatever that is. What are some things that somebody should look for? And I think another thing would be good to talk about some things to be cautious or maybe, you know, to look out for, like, um, you know, what are the key, what are the good and bad of a mentorship? Maybe we could summarize it.
Well, I'll start with the last question first. Um, great thing about COVID-19, it flushed out of a lot of the bad players
Mm.
on social media. Like 2 years ago, these people were driving Lambos, living in houses. Now they're living in their mother's basement. And you find out they weren't really who they were.
Right.
Um, so I think um, find mentors that that they're the same person home as they are out in business.
Right.
Now, one mind hack that somebody might want to know is your mind does not know the difference between having a mentor sitting in front of you or a mentor that you're listening to every day. Your mind doesn't know the difference.
Right.
So, like my main mentor is Ed Milet. He's probably the number one influence in my life besides Jesus Christ. But your mind doesn't know the difference between if they're a real friend or somebody that you listen to. Because if you listen to
Right.
something, it gets into your conscience.
Right.
So even if you're stuck in COVID and you can't get outside, there's no reason why you can't find some good mentors to listen to
Right.
and start studying.
Right. You know, that's a great point you're talking about, where you can't get out and you could sit mired in your own, like, oh, you know, feeling sorry for yourself. But I think what you talk about is, first off, you're talking about people living authentically, because I know there are a lot of people, the Instagram heroes, right? Snapchat heroes that would run out and take pictures besides things that, hey, look, you know, I'm making millions and I own this Learjet or whatever, or this lavish home is mine, when it really isn't, right? And they want people to think things that are not true, and to, in a sense, trick people into, you know, saying, oh my God, they're so successful, I want to partner with them. And you know, so living authentically, I think what you were talking about is so vitally important, especially into today's, I think people are looking for authenticity, right? And it's authenticity, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not always pretty. It's not always, you talk about your journey, and your journey hasn't been always pretty, but it's real, and it's raw, and
Well,
people see themselves in it.
I got interviewed last week and I broke down and cried because I never talked about the day I tried to commit suicide.
Mm,
And but it was real. It was
right,
somebody that might that was listening might be saying, "Damn, he didn't commit suicide that day. Maybe I
right,
don't today." You know what I mean?
right, right,
I didn't come out and say, what happened and why, and my wife would vouch for it. If she knows me, if anybody knows my wife, they know they're going to know that I'm the same guy here than I am outside. That if we're friends, I'm going to tell you I love you, brother. I'm going to give you a hug.
right.
Whether you know, I'm not afraid to be that loving, goofy guy.
Well,
'Cause
what intrigued me about you, Richard, is the first thing, when I kind of reached out about being on the show, you were like, um, what value can I? Your first to me was, what value can I provide to you or your listeners?
Yeah,
It wasn't like what my show can do for you. You were more concerned with what you can provide to the folks listening right now. And that really stuck with me because I was like, here's this guy. I don't know really him other than what I'm seeing, and it intrigues me, and what he may see out there of me. But that's only surface level stuff.
yeah.
And here he's already asking what value he can provide, not only me, but my listeners. And so already connecting. So I just saying that you were already leading with your heart, right off the get go. You were,
Like,
very
you know,
authentic.
something. Gary gets on my nerves a lot just because I try to be a Christian man, but the cursing gets on my nerves after
Sure,
a while.
sure.
But the greatest thing he ever told me was, he said, "Rich," he said, "your legacy will always be more valuable than your currency."
That's true.
So if I can, when I come on a person's show, it's never about me. It's always about helping somebody that's listening in
Right.
the audience. 'Cause a lot of times I forget to even talk about my show and the podcast and and, and the t-shirts, and I forget to talk about all that because
Right.
it's not that important.
Right. Well, and it's really never about us, right? Anytime, even if we know that we go into it, it's about us. But really, when we get through all the BS, it's really not about us. Yeah, isn't that an interesting dynamic that even when our ego maybe says it is, it really isn't.
Well, like
And
buddy, it's hard to have an ego and then your wife's telling you to throw out the trash.
I love it.
You know,
I love it.
it's like
it.
you're
It's
never in
good to
that mood.
have somebody else to keep you humble. It's kids
Yeah,
and wives. That's guys. If you're listening, kids and wives. That's where you need to keep it,
that's
and
it.
and a good animal. So yeah. So I love it. Um, so keeping on with where we were at, we were talking about, the mentorship piece. Why is it important, Richard? Why is it important to have a mentor? Why do you feel that it's important to have somebody that is kind of I don't want to call it guiding light, but somebody that keeps you in the left and right limits, so to speak.
Well, it's kind of like I didn't really believe in mentorship or coaches or anything that until I worked with the guys from the WWE. And here are Triple H and The Undertaker, the biggest stars in the world, and they all have trainers, they all have coaches. So if they're the best in the world and they still have coaches, why shouldn't people that are just starting out have coaches? Are we that,
Right.
are we that self-absorbed thinking we don't need any help? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So if coaches have coaches,
Right.
even Tom Brady still has to be coached, and he's
Yeah.
the greatest of all time.
Right.
and he wants to be coached. And I think that's the difference between people that are winning and people that aren't winning in life.
Right.
You know, if you have, like they say in AA, if you're self-sponsored, you have an asshole for a sponsor. So in business, if
Right.
you're coaching yourself, then you have more issues than what you think you got.
Right. Right. I think that's very well said. So what was the dynamic, if you will? You briefly talked about the merch, right? What was the what was the birth of that project like? Was something like, let's come up with something that people can physically touch, or take us through that a little bit.
Well, I have a hat that's dropping tomorrow. I have a T-shirt that's out. I have a book that's out on Amazon. But the great thing about what I do is I make $0 off everything. Everything that my proceeds from the T-shirts go to help a place called Warfighters Gardens. They help
Oh,
veterans
yeah.
from PTSD. So everything I do, the money goes to help veterans. So I don't make any
Perfect.
money. So I don't have to be that guy that's hawking everything because I don't make any money off of it. But at
Right.
least somebody. But I want also somebody that, like my T-shirt that came out, because I believe that the three most important words in the English language are "Today I decided."
Mm.
So
Hmm.
my T-shirt says, "Today I decided not to become a statistic."
Nice. I love it.
So when if they buy the T-shirt, I think it's like $22. Um,
Okay.
the money goes to my proceeds, whatever I was going to get, goes to help veterans that are struggling with PTSD and TBI.
It was interesting. You brought up that this is just serendipitous, because it's funny that all your proceeds go to a warrior's garden, right?
Yeah.
And actually, um, the episode that comes out right before yours is episode 24, with Mac- uh,
Malachi.
Malachi. There we go. I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
A Warrior's Garden will come out
Yep.
the very end of February, and then yours will be the very first part of March, which I think is just so cool. And I can't remember if that's how we made the connection or where the connection was from, but what I found through this podcast has been, when I connect to one guest, it seems like the network of people that are connected, and this is where I'm trying to go with this conversation, is that everybody is connected in different ways in this world. And it is so cool to me that when I connect to one person that is doing just tremendous things, I'm seeing somebody off to the left or the right or behind him or wherever, and doing another tremendous thing. And it's like now, reaching out to you and reaching out to someone. And I just think it's so cool that one door leads to another. And it's almost in a sense of like, where God or the universe, whatever, what have you, kind of showing you the way, so to speak. And have you found that? Did you find in your, maybe with your faith and everything, as you took one step, another would open, and you were led down just a path of just really cool opportunities
Well,
presenting themselves?
and I think that when you're out there and you're just giving and giving and giving, it seems
Right.
like the world comes to you.
Yeah.
It's weird when you think of it like that,
Yeah.
but it just seems like you said, it all comes back to authenticity.
Yeah.
You know, like my podcast, it's rated the number 8 veteran podcast in the world, and
Beautiful.
I I'm actually getting to interview General Petraeus.
Oh, wow. Congratulations on that, by the way.
But we're going to be talking about transitioning and stuff like that. But if it, but it's all about what can I when I message him and I said, sir, I'm looking to help other veterans. It's not about me, you being on the show. And he's like, wow, it's pretty cool that you want me to come on the show to talk about helping other veterans.
Right.
So it's kind of like you can when you have a podcast or a platform,
Right.
first thing people think, oh well, he just wants to get his name out there, and you know. But when you're always willing to, it's always about the guest
Right,
or it's their mission. The talk changes
right.
because it's
It
about,
does.
you know.
It's about a separate subject. It's not about yourselves, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
about giving. It's about selfless service.
Yep.
Something bigger than yourself. Interesting that you bring up, talking about when you're giving. It seems like you receive more when you give, and not that you give just to receive, but it's interesting how when you're in that space. So people that are in church, they're tithing, and yet the more they tithe, it seems the more they receive more blessings, right? Whatever that is, it doesn't always have to be money. You talk about whether it's through podcasts or volunteering in some sort. When you give of yourself in a selfless way and your intentions are pure, or you come from your heart, it seems like it opens some might call it good karma, some might call it the blessing of God, some might call it whatever, but it somehow rebounds back to you tenfold, where you can give it out again. You can take those blessings and,
Yep.
like, all right, now I got more to give away. All right, let's keep this cycle going, because then I can continue giving in a positive manner. And have you found to have you do you work that into your coaching as well? Because saying, if you find time to give, or if you find time, because even that's a thing that I've noticed with very successful people in any level, they always take time to give of themselves, just out of, hey, I don't want anything for this is of my time, or free, or whatever. But have you found that successful people, there's another key element, that they always find time to give back in some form or fashion?
Yep. Well, my whole life is about giving back now.
Sure, sure.
Everything I do, from the books to the hats to the
Right.
talking to podcast. Like I have 20 sponsors on my podcast, and I
Oh,
don't charge
beautiful,
any.
beautiful.
I don't charge anything. I just promote their businesses, and but I get more blessing out of that by, you
Absolutely.
know what I mean, because it's, in the end, in this world, stuff is just stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And when you get older, the more stuff you have, it's like the more shit you got to take care of.
You're right. Well, and
So
then when we
I'm
leave,
grateful, for what I have. I live a blessed life, which I'm grateful. But if I can save people's lives, or
right,
if I cheer their life up a little bit, then life is amazing, because you know people really care about you when you care about them.
absolutely,
And that's,
absolutely, they do.
I'm a big Ziegler guy. And he always says you can have anything you want in life as long as you help enough people get what they want in life.
Mhm.
So that's my theory on life.
You talk about helping others, and sharing your, not only your struggles, but really sharing the spotlight on others, and just really, um, just wanting to be of service, to others. I wanted to switch the conversation a little bit, because you brought it up earlier, and I was unaware of this until you brought it up. But you talked about that you attempted to take your own life at some point. Do you mind talking about that a little bit, and
Made it.
what brought you to that point, and then you know kind of the post aspect of when you're on the backside of surviving that attempt, and what message do you bring forward with that?
What happened was, in order for the military to medically discharge you, they have to, you got to go through a medical board, and sometimes that can take a year and a half. So they send you to a place for your drill weekend or whatever, and that's where you spend the whole weekend. And sometimes it takes a year and a half. That's when I started getting into reading and uh, stuff about positive mindsets and stuff like that. And then one day they finally said, Sergeant Kaufman, can you come with us? And they asked me for my ID, and they said, you are no longer a United States soldier. Um, Now, all the time leading up to this, because I got thrown out of the military the first time, almost got thrown out a second time, and then was given the opportunity to continue in the military. I tried becoming the best soldier that I can ever be, and the best leader, and the best teacher I can be. And then to finally say, you're no longer Sergeant Kaufman. And I went out into my truck, and I was going to meet my wife down at the shore. We were going to go down for the weekend. And I decided, I said, I feel disgraced. I feel at a loss. I feel I've lost my career. I've lost my vision. And I said, I'm done. I'm going to commit suicide. So I decided to get in the truck. And in New Jersey, we got long highways, and I just figured I was going to get the truck up to 100 miles an hour, and as soon as it hits 100 miles an hour, I was going to put it on auto and just shut my eyes, and hopefully it's going to go hit into a barrier. So I did it. It got up to 100 miles an hour. I put it on autopilot, shut my eyes, and song called uh, sorry,
No, that's
no,
fine.
called "I Saw God Today" by Clint Black, and I thought of my newborn baby, and my eyes just shot open, and I pulled the car back into the lane, and I said, "Lord, I don't know what's going on." I said, "But I need help." And now, and I went told my wife. I said, "I really need help." Then we got back, and I started to get help from the VA, and that's when it all started to get better. So I made an appointment with the VA, and I get home, and I met with a psychologist, and I said, "Honey," I said, "you're not going to believe this." She's like, "What?" I said, "My psychologist, her name is Dr. Seuss." She's not spelled the same way. I was like, "No," but she's
Right.
like, "That is so typical of you." So I've been Dr. Seuss for the last 10 years now. So that's when everything started changing that day, when I guess something saved me again. There's always been something that's jumped in, has been in my saved me. I've always had a saving grace. And now I just want to be the guy that's going to stand in the gap for somebody
Mm,
else,
mm.
you know?
What piece of advice, you were standing in that dark moment, right? You were saying that basically God, in a sense, came to you and saved you. But what would you say to those that maybe are in a similar place, and maybe they're not receiving um, getting that God vision? Maybe they're not feeling that connection. What would you say to them, and what advice would you have to them right now?
Um, get help, ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength when you're asking for help. In the rooms of AA or NA or NEA, whatever they call it, they say sometimes the heaviest thing to pick up is a telephone.
Right.
So I
Right.
think if somebody's struggling, the best thing you can do is pick up the phone, call somebody, whether it's a crisis hotline, whether it's any, even if it's just somebody that's struggling, that has been through what you've been through, just call them up and say, "I'm struggling and I need help."
Right.
Because people are willing, like, if you're on Facebook and you post something, you may get 0 likes. But if you put "I need help" on your page, you're going to get hundreds of people. "Are you okay? What can we do for you?" So
Right.
sometimes what you have to do is ask for help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a great point that you brought up social media, because most of us is carrying around one of those dang electronic leashes, right? And we're usually connected to social media pretty easily. Um, so there's more than one way to reach out, right?
There's always somebody that's willing to help.
Right.
And it might not even be, I put out a post just the other day. I said, because my family shunned me when I was an addict. And then all of a sudden, I had a family member that's struggling with addiction. Now everybody's asking me for help. I'm like, but you shunned me when I was addicted. So sometimes the person that you're shunning
Right.
away 30 years ago might be saving your kid today.
Right.
So
Yeah.
don't quit before the miracle happens.
Crazy. Great. Yeah. That's yeah, that's absolutely. Um so let me ask you. You had the merch and everything came to be. You're in this moment, or you're now discharged, medically discharged from the military. You went through this, um I guess, post or dealing with the you know attempted suicide. um how did you know was there any fallout for you personally? I'm not saying from external sources, but sometimes there feels like residual, how do I want to say, like angst or emotions. Do you just continually work on those each and every day? Because sometimes people, almost say it feels like a black cloud, or sometimes it feel like a slip. How do you navigate that?
Okay, well, for you guys that are listening, do not do what I did. One day I just decided, okay, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to put all the nasty shit that I ever did and I'm going to put it out in print, which I did. And, but it's a book that's in the end, actually, it's a teachable book. But so what I did is I just put everything that ever happened to me and put it out in a book. And from that point on, I felt free because everything was already out there. You know, it's like um, if you tell somebody all your secrets, then they got nothing to come back to you on. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
so I did. But now, of course, every day I'm working on because you're never going to be that perfect person. But I also don't beat myself up if I mess up in a certain way. Like if me and my wife have an argument, I'll probably be down on myself, and then I'll go ask for forgiveness, and then I'll say, all right, I got to work better on this. You're
Hmm.
always going to try to improve, but you know, there's a reason why in your car your windshield is always bigger than your rear windshield because your future is brighter than your past. So don't get yourself wrapped around the axle. You can't change what they say. Somebody told me, I don't know who said it. If you have one foot on today, I mean on yesterday, and one foot on tomorrow, you're crapping all over today. So you can't change what happened in the past, but if you can change what from minute to minute, then of course you're going to change your future. You know,
Absolutely.
so all you
Abs-
have is today. All you have is the next 25, 30 minutes if God wills you to have it.
right. Richard, what would be, I guess I know you talked about some of your influencers, but um, God being one of them, but somebody that who would be, um, a couple people that you look up to, somebody that has shaped your future and continually, I guess, kind of is your guiding light doing what you do.
Well, of course, for podcasting and speaking, Ed Milet is my guy. Um, I actually got invited to come down and hang out with him last year, but I was going through surgery, so I wasn't able to fly. So, but Ed Milet would probably be um, the guy in for what I'm doing, and probably would. I have two uncles that both passed, and those are probably the guys that are shaping my now and my future that are not influencers.
Sure.
They both passed. One uncle only had a fifth grade education, retired a multimillionaire. He died early. And then I had another uncle that was a born again Christian, and he just lit up everybody's world and changed everybody's world for the better. So those are
Oh,
my two
wow.
influencers that are, they're not here anymore, but they
Sure.
influence all my decisions on a daily basis.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautifully said. Um, if folks out there want to go out, check out um, maybe stuff, videos on your speaking, if they want to find out more about you, where do they do that?
Well, if they want to check out the book, it's on Amazon Kindle. It's called A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light. And the great thing about the book is, I'm a big. I grew up in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, so I was always a big Superman fan. And when I wrote my book, I asked Christopher Reeve's wife if I can use the opening quote, his opening quote for my book, and they allowed me to do that. So it's pretty cool to check that out. The opening quote is actually from Christopher Reeve's Superman. And the last
Nice.
two chapters of the book are one is on what suicide actually looks like and not what you think it looks like, and what addiction actually looks like and not what you think it looks like. And the book is only 99 cents. So if you don't have a buck to save a life, then you have more issues than I got. But if somebody puts in a search bar, hashtag the comeback coach, it'll come up on all my social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Tumblr, Parlor, all that stuff. And it's all
Perfect.
hashtag.
And where can they get the merch as well? The hat, the shirts.
Shirt's going to be available. I mean, t-shirts going to be are available now. I'm trying to set up a landing page, which it should be done in the next couple of days.
Okay.
So the t-shirts, the hats are going to be available tomorrow. So everything, if they just hashtag the comeback coach, by the time this airs, everything will be on the landing pages.
Nice, nice. And we'll make sure by that time when this airs, we'll certainly have your the landing page address and all that up on the up here so folks can check that out. And what I love too, and of course the book A Hero's Journey from Darkness to Light, go run out and get that. And the cool aspect is that money going back to a warrior's garden
Yeah, and
to
it's an easy read. It's very highly rated on Amazon
nice.
because I didn't edit it at all. So what it is what it is. So it's people say it actually sounds like I'm talking. So it's not a lot of fluff.
Sure.
There might be a couple curse words in there, but it's just for real and from the heart. And it's an easy read, a half hour, 45 minutes, and you're done.
Nice. Nice. All right, my friend. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover that we completely forgot, or um, something that you wanted? Any parting words that you wanted to um, make sure that you threw out there for the listeners and viewers?
Just during this time of season, Thanksgiving season, Christmas, and in mental health circles, it's known as hurricane season because more people commit suicide during the holidays than during the year. So if anybody's out there that has somebody that's either a veteran, police officer, firefighter, corrections officer, just reach out to them and ask them how you're doing. And if they give you the standard answer, I'm doing okay, ask them, no, how are you really doing? And, because they might just need somebody to talk to, you know?
Right. Sound advice and well said. I love that. So many of us are it's so busy with life that sometimes we forget to reach out to our people around us to say how you doing,
Yeah.
but really say no, how you really doing, like not just that I'm fine.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's a oversaid term way too often. But well, my guest today, Richard Kaufman. Richard, thank you so much. not only thank you for your service, but thank you for what you continually do. I know you hear this, but really sincerely from the heart, thank you. And thanks for being a guest today on the Red, White News Show.
Thank you. And for you guys that did watch, just remember, everybody loves a comeback story, and today it's your day.
Okay.